Hello, everyone. Today is August 20th, 2023. We have a simulation with a candidate for Mayor Waleed Abu Tayeh. We are proposing a common government for the people of Israel and Palestine. We believe that a common government will be a legitimate government that would give dignity and democracy and equality to the people of Israel and Palestine, from the river to the sea. That would include Gaza, the West Bank, Jerusalem, and Israel, that could exist simultaneously with the Israeli and the Palestinian government, but would be the only true democracy in the area, the only true legitimate government in the area. We have a website. It's ipconfederation.org. If you click on that website, you will see our Constitution. It's in English, Arabic, and Hebrew. We believe in the separation of power between the legislative, executive, and the judicial branch. And we also believe in separation between government and religion. You can read the Constitution. It explains how the common government will work, how it will function, how it will be elected, and what will be the relationship between the current existing governments and the common government. My name is Joseph Avasar. My email is josephavassar@gmail.com. Please send me your comments to that address. All of our recordings are available and on YouTube. The previous simulations, we had many of them. They're all available. Many of the questions that you may be asking are available on our YouTube channel. Today we have a very special guest, a candidate, Palestinian-Israeli candidate for the city of Jerusalem. His name is Waleed Abu Tayeh. Waleed Abu Tayeh was born in Nazareth and resides in Jerusalem. He is an attorney and an accountant, and a member of the new party called Kol Ezrachea, which in Hebrew means all its citizens, which is led by Avram Borg and Professor Faisal Azaiza. For those of you who may remember, Avram Borg was also a guest in our simulation ago. In the upcoming elections in October of this year, Mr. Waleed Abu Tayeh is facing opposition from the Jerusalem Mufti of Muhammad Hussein. The Mufti declared that it is forbidden for any Palestinian Arab resident of Jerusalem to participate in municipal elections, whether as a candidate or as a voter. Waleed's goal is to represent the entire city of Jerusalem, including its Palestinian residents, many of whom have Israeli residency and 40,000 of whom have Israeli citizenship. I wanted to have a meeting with Mr. Abu Tayeh in order to prepare for the simulation, but unfortunately he was very busy campaigning, and I am very thankful to him that he's giving us the time despite his very busy campaign for mayor. He's facing support and opposition from both sides, the Israeli and the Palestinian side, and I'm hoping that we will support him and we will spread the word about his candidacy and qualification. On September 3rd, we will have Avner Varyahu. He's a co-director of Breaking the Silence, an organization of veteran soldiers who have served in the Israeli military since the Intifada. On September 17, we will have Hussein Ibish. He's a senior resident scholar at the Arab Gulf State Institute in Washington. He was a reporter for the New York Times and many other publications. And he's a very distinguished scholar on the issue of Israel-Palestine. On October 1st, we will have Alon Burstein. He is a visiting assistant professor at the Department of Political Science at the University of California, Irvine. I participated in a Zoom with him. He's very, very interesting fellow. On November 1st, we will have the billboard in Tel Aviv, which says a Jewish state is bad for Jews. And we are campaigning to get funding to have this poster. It's a huge poster in Tel Aviv. These are previous participants, which you can see we have a lot of them. All of these simulations with them are on YouTube. We had Noam Chomsky, who participated twice in the simulation, and he recorded a video endorsing the IPC. And as far as I'm concerned, he is the IPC is the only peace proposal that Chomsky. I hope that they will change in the future. We are sending them invitations to join. Our estimated time is 120 minutes. We will have several segments, and each segment we will have Mr. Abu Tayeh give us his opinion. He's a very unique position because he's actually doing what we are proposing, which is to get votes from Palestinians and Israelis for the mayor of Jerusalem. And he has opposition, but he also has great support. And then we will have conversation with Mr. Abu Tayeh and closing remarks. Like I said, I didn't have time to speak with Mr. Abu Tayeh to prepare. So this video should help understand what we see is about peace between.
The conflict between Israelis and Palestinians has endured for generations. And instead of time healing the wounds, it's only caused the anger to fester and the violence to grow. But what if there was a way to alleviate the tension? Something that may not outright solve every problem, but at least create a forum that encourages a peaceful compromise. Welcome to the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation, a common third government between the Israeli and Palestinian citizens, specifically designed to foster peace, tolerance, and economic prosperity between the two nations. Here's how it works. First off, both Israel and Palestine will keep their respective governments. Israel's Knesset and the Palestinian National Authority will remain unchanged. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation, IPC, will be a third entity acting as a unifying agent between the two. The IPC will comprise 300 parliament members elected from 300 districts in Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. Above them will preside a president and vice president, one Israeli and one Palestinian. In order for the IPC to pass a law, it will require a 55% majority from its Israeli representatives, as well as a 55% majority from its Palestinian representatives, thereby preventing either side from monopolizing the legislature. Of course, the IPC won't undermine the political power of either the Israeli or the Palestinian government. At any time, Israel or Palestine may veto a law passed by the IPC. If neither side vetoes, the law is passed. And the two nations are another step closer to resolution. Please help us make this a reality. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation. We might speak different languages, but we all mean the same thing.
So we will be simulating what we've seen on the video. I'd like to conduct a pre-simulation survey at this time. We will conduct another one at the end of the simulation. How many of you support a common government for the people of Israel and Palestine? If you support, please vote yes. If you do not support, please vote no. And we will compare the results now. We will compare it later to what we have now versus what we will have later. Mr. Abu Tayeh, you can also vote.
Yes, sure.
Okay.
I did.
Okay, so right now we have, let's give it a little bit more time. Okay. Publish the vote. 21 out of 24, 88% yes. And 3 out of 24, 13% no. We will compare this results at the end of the simulation to see if we made any changes one way or another. The purpose of the simulation is to show how a common government could make peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. We are not anti-Israel or anti-Palestinians. We are pro-peace. Mr. Abu Tayeh is not a representative of the IPC. He was invited to give his opinion. We have our own narrative. We do not follow the Israeli narrative or the Palestinian narrative. We follow our own narrative. And we anticipate that a common government will do the same. It will have its own narrative. That's the whole purpose. We hope to have a rigorous discussion with Mr. Abu Tayeh. I will give him a lot more time to answer questions and answers because he's running for mayor, and it's very important to give him time. And so that we do not preclude other formulas for peace, and we are not claiming exclusivity. All other formulas are welcome to demonstrate their feasibility. We will ask Mr. Abu Tayeh, could our formula make peace? And we will ask him to be fair, not whether our formula is perfect, because as you can see, perfection enslaves us. This is why we have a picture of slavery. We cannot be perfect. We can only be good versus the alternative. What is the alternative? So we will ask Mr. Abu Tayeh, is the IPC plan implementable? Is there a downside to it? And could it make peace? We will show some legislation. It's the tip of the iceberg of what the common government could make, and it's a tip of iceberg of samples of legislation that we can show that the common government could pass. What we ask you is to avoid technical arguments, refrain from comments. This is a simulation. This is not a lecture. However, we encourage question. A simulation is a model that mimics the operation of an existing or proposed system. We are conducting a simulation. If I show you a picture of an airplane and you say, how does this plane fly? This is a question. We encourage question. However, if you say airplanes are dangerous, they cause pollutions, I don't want to fly them, that's a comment. We ask you to refrain from comments. In order to conduct the simulation, we have to make certain assumptions. So, Mr. Abu Tayeh, you're going to be asked questions about, first of all, about whether you accept these simulations. So pay very, very close attention. You will have to assume that we have conducted an election and allowed 14 million people, that's the people in Israel, the West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem, to vote. That we have given them 3 months to vote, and they can vote on the internet, using their phone, using their computer, using friends' phone, and using friends' computers. 14 million people, that's the total population in Israel, Palestine. We will, of course, that the 14 million people include minors. Minors will not be allowed to vote, but other than that, everyone is allowed to vote. regardless of is Israeli or Palestinian, in the West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem. You will also have to assume that 5 million people voted, that 3 million Palestinians voted, and 2 million Israeli voted. That's part of the assumption for this simulation. You will have to assume for this simulation only that I was elected, me, Joseph, I was elected by 1.5 million votes, and a vice president was elected by 1.3 million votes. She is a Palestinian lady, and we will rotate in 2 years. Now, so that it's clear, I never intend to run as president. I'm not even qualified under the Constitution because I'm not a resident of Israel, Palestine. But for the purpose of the simulation, it makes it easier for me to assume that I am the president, and we're going to pretend now that I am the president. We will also ask you, you to assume that 300 parliament members were elected. A lot of you will be asked to be parliament members in the simulation, that each parliament member represent the his district, his or her district, 47,000 people in that district. Some of the districts are Palestinian, some of the districts are Israelis, and many of them are mixed districts. So I am asking you, do you have any questions regarding those assumptions? Let's start with Mr. Abu Tayeh. Mr. Abu Tayeh, do you have any questions regarding those assumptions?
No, I have no. I can say that it's depend on the desire of the people, but we have to make take account of the settlement also, because in the West Bank there are a lot of settlements. So we have to decide the desire of the people, if they want one state or two states, because settlement in the West Bank, it's now difficult to make two states. I think that is because of the settlement in the West Bank. It's difficult to make two states. But,
my question is, forget about two state, one state. We are now making assumptions that we are pretending that we just finished an election. Okay.
Yeah.
We haven't made any decision whether one state, two state, or whatever. We are pretending that we conducted an election and that we allowed 14 million people, excluding minors, to vote. Okay.
Yeah.
And the election took place online, whether it is Palestinians can vote, Israelis can vote. We also want you to assume, for the purpose of this simulation, that 5 million people voted, that 3 million Palestinians voted, and 2 million Israelis voted.
Yeah.
We want you to assume that 1.5 million people voted for the president, that I, Joseph, became president, and a Palestinian lady became a vice president. So we want you to assume that we are a separate government. We're not Israeli government. We're not Palestinian government. We are a government for the people of Palestine and Israel together. And we elected a government. That's what we want you to assume. That 300 parliament members were elected. So my question is, do you have any questions regarding those assumptions?
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions regarding those assumptions? I don't see your hand, so if you can just shout out the question if you have any question. Okay, I hear no questions.
Joseph, thank you for hosting this. I have a question about the districts.
Yes.
And the definition of them being Palestinian or Israeli.
Right.
For instance, in the West Bank or in Jaffa or in, how does it get defined as Israeli or Palestinian district?
They're not. We do not define them as Israeli or Palestinian. They are districts, and they elect a person and the person who is elected is either Israeli or Palestinian, but the district themselves are not defined as Israeli or Palestinian.
So you had mentioned that there's a need to get 55% approval of both the Israeli parliament members and Palestinians. So how is that defined? 55% of what?
So at the end of the day, we will elect 300 parliament members. The parliament members specify whether they're Israeli or Palestinians
Right.
when they run. Once they specify who they are, then that's how they're going to be counted. So at the end of the day, we will, let's say, elect 140 Israelis or 160 Palestinians, or vice versa.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, good afternoon, and thank you for your effort and time. My question is, what about, I do like your idea, but it's very difficult to swallow for me, actually. But my question is, what about the right of return? What about the Palestinians who do not live in Palestine because they're not allowed to? Why are you forgetting them?
We are asking you to ask questions about the assumptions first. We just finished the election today. Okay.
It's cuckoo land. It's all talk. I mean, it is so frustrating, Javed.
Okay, please ask questions.
Okay. You can carry on, but okay.
All right, sure. Okay, now, do you have any questions regarding the assumptions, Una?
No, because
Okay.
it is not. It's a cuckoo land. Come on.
Okay, what is cuckoo land about it?
Your assumption. You're trying to do something which the Israel
What is
will never
cuckoo land?
allow you
What
to
is
do.
cuckoo land about those assumptions?
It's fantastic, but you are dealing with apartheid. Israel is an apartheid country. You have to eliminate that.
My question is, what is cuckoo land about those assumptions about the election?
Election, it all will, as long as the Palestinians who do not live in Palestine are not involved, it's another world. My friend, I am
All right,
a French
you haven't
person.
answered my question, so I'm going to go on.
Okay, your turn, you know exactly what you're doing. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. So we will have to work based on those assumptions. I believe those assumptions are realistic. They can become a reality, and it would take about $100 million to make those assumptions a reality. Shlomo, do you have a question regarding those assumptions?
No, but I would like to just a quick answer to Una.
No, we need to go on. This is not a conversation here. We have a simulation, okay? I asked for questions. So I believe this is achievable with $100 million a day. I mean, $100 million is what it costs to have a war between Israel and Gaza. One day of war can make these assumptions a reality. I'm gonna be asking some of you to act as volunteers to be either Israeli Prime Minister, Palestinian Authority, or a president of Hamas, or the leader of Hamas in this simulation. Do we have a volunteer to be the Prime Minister of Israel? A volunteer for Prime Minister of Israel? Anyone volunteer to be Prime Minister of Israel?
If no one else does it, I will.
Okay,
That's Charles.
okay. Do I have a volunteer to be the president of the Palestinian Authority?
I did it last time, but I'm willing to do it again.
Okay. Do we have a volunteer to be Hamas leader?
Joseph, I will.
Sean, okay. Terrific.
Yeah.
All right. The rest of you, I will ask you to be either Palestinian parliament members or Israeli parliament members. And you will have to choose what district do you represent? Is either Israel, in Israel, or Palestine? You will have to choose the district. I'm showing you a map. So you need to be consistent and intellectually honest and remain in your capacity as Palestinian or Israeli parliament members. Let's see how many Palestinian parliament members do we have. Palestinian, please identify yourself as Palestinian parliament members in this simulation.
What about Jerusalem?
Everything. Do you want to be a parliament member in Jerusalem?
Yeah.
Okay, so you will have to.
Corpus separatum.
Yeah,
Jerusalem
so okay, you have to remember, we are a separate government. We are not, okay, we are a separate government. We're not the Israeli government. We're not the Palestinian government. We are a separate government for Israel, Palestine. Mr. Abu Tayeh,
Yes.
are you willing to be a parliament member, a Palestinian parliament member?
Yes.
From Jerusalem. Okay, so just did you vote yes?
Yes.
Okay. So and what about Una? Una, have you decided what you want to be, a Palestinian parliament member or Israeli parliament member? Okay. Let's go and now have Israeli parliament members. Please vote. So we have 9 Palestinian and Israeli parliament members. If you, Una, have you decided, are you going to be Palestinian parliament member or Israeli parliament member?
He's muted.
Okay, we have published the vote. We have 6 Israeli parliament members. And you can decide later on if you want to be Israeli or Palestinian, but remain consistent. Okay. So we are a common government. We had the election. We have a president. We have a vice president. We have 300 parliament members. Now we need to pass the constitution. Libby, could you please read aloud the constitution, please?
We believe that Palestinians and Israelis are entitled to equal rights under the law and guaranteed human rights and freedom. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation does not intend to supersede or supplant the Palestinian or Israeli governments, nor to abrogate or undermine any agreements between those governments. We recognize the need to work with the Israeli and Palestinian governments. Our purpose is to resolve conflicts and to expand the relationship between Palestinians and Israelis in a fair and equitable manner. We believe in equal rights under the law, guaranteed human rights, and freedom for all. We voluntarily give the legislatures and the governments of Israel and Palestine veto power over legislation we pass relating to the domain of control of those governments. We believe in the separation of power between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. We believe in the creation of a permanent secular government for all the people residing in Israel and Palestine. We believe in having a separate judicial branch relating to IPC legislation with Israeli and Palestinian judges, with a system to avoid biased decisions based on nationality.
Okay, so we are a separate government. We constitutionally, we support every agreement that the Israeli and the Palestinian government reach between them. We cannot supersede or supplant any agreements between the separate Israeli and the Palestinian governments. When we pass legislation that impinges on the power, the domain and control of the Israeli and the Palestinian government, we give them a veto power. But other than that, we are a separate and independent government for the people of Israel and Palestine. Mr. Abu Tayeh, do you have any questions or comments regarding this constitution?
No, it's okay.
You have no questions?
No.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions regarding the constitution? Una, do you have any questions regarding the constitution? Okay, hearing no questions.
No question. Thank you.
Okay, good. Let's have the Palestinian, we need to ratify the constitution. If you do not ratify the constitution, you will be excluded from the parliament. So you have to vote yes in order to stay in the parliament. If you vote no, you will be excluded. You cannot pass, you cannot vote on any legislation. Do you support the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation? This is Palestinian parliament members only, okay? So maybe we got mixed up because I see more. Okay, let's end the polling. Share the results. 100% of the Palestinian parliament members voted yes. Let's have the Israeli parliament members. Do you support the constitution? Like I said, if you do not support, you will be expelled from the parliament. Okay, let's publish the vote. Share the results. 100% of the Palestinian parliament members, the Israeli parliament members voted yes on the constitution. So we now have a government, we have a president, we have parliament, we have a constitution. So now we are going to the first order of business, and that is granting a veto power to the separate government. Libby, could you please read out the legislation?
The Confederation is the government of the entire population of Israel and Palestine from the river to the sea. We recognize the Palestinian and Israeli governments and are seeking their cooperation to implement our vision for peace by giving them a veto. We will do our utmost to satisfy the essential needs of each government. We are pleading with the Palestinian and Israeli public to understand that while we would like to pass the best legislation possible to improve their lives, under these constraints, a perfect legislation is not possible. We hereby bestow a veto power relating to legislation affecting sovereignty to the following: the government of Israel on issues in which it is indispensable, the Palestinian Authority on issues in which it is indispensable, Hamas on issues in which it is indispensable. In the event of changes in governments, this legislation may be amended or repealed. The parliament will decide on indispensability. Vetoes may be bestowed individually or collectively.
Mr. Abu Tayeh, do you have any questions regarding this legislation?
No question.
Okay, Una, do you have any questions regarding this legislation, or does anybody have a question regarding this legislation? Okay, hearing no questions, let's have the Palestinian parliament members vote. Please vote on the veto power. Do you support the declaration of intent to grant a veto power? Okay. And the polling. Share the results. 90% of the Palestinian parliament members voted to give a veto power. to the separate governments. Let's have the Israeli parliament members please vote. Israeli parliament members, please vote. Okay, publish the results. 83% of the Israeli parliament members so passed the legislation. So we all agreed to give a veto power to the separate government, the Israeli, the Palestinian, and the Hamas government. Mr. Abu Tayeh, at any time, if you have a comment or question, just
Yeah, I have a comment. I
Okay.
think that the Constitution has to have the capital of the two states, no? According to the Constitution.
no, the capital will be decided by the common government, by the parliament.
Okay.
We do not, the Constitution does not decide anything of substance.
Uh-huh.
All
Okay.
substantive matter will be decided by the parliament.
Okay.
Okay, the first our first legislation is the Nakba Museum. Since we have a possible mayor of Jerusalem, we are honoring him with this legislation for the Nakba Museum. Libby, would you be so kind as to read the legislation regarding the Nakba Museum?
The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation is proposing the construction of a Nakba Museum in the city of Jerusalem. The museum aims to memorialize and document the destruction of Palestinian society and homeland, the permanent displacement of most of the Palestinian Arabs, the ongoing occupation of the Palestinian territories, and the persecution of the Palestinians. It also seeks to highlight their displacement in refugee camps throughout the region. We hereby submit this legislation to the Israeli government, the Palestinian government, and Hamas. We bestow upon them veto power, which may be exercised in the next 60 days.
Okay, so this legislation affects the sovereignty of the government of Israel and Palestine. Therefore, we are giving them a veto power. But before we give them a veto power, we need to vote on it. And before we vote, let me ask if anyone has any questions. Does Mr. Abu Tayeh have any questions or comments?
I have a question, Joseph.
Yeah.
How does this, well, since I'm Palestinian president, I'm gonna veto or maybe not veto. How does this affect Palestinian sovereignty since the museum is built in an area that's not under Palestinian sovereignty?
I don't know where it will be built.
It says Jerusalem.
Yes. Yes, it would be in Jerusalem, and it affects the sovereignty of both the Palestinians and the Israeli government.
Because you know that the Palestinian Authority.
That's why you are giving a veto power.
Yeah, but the Palestinian Authority has no jurisdiction in Jerusalem to now. That's the issue. So, but is this preluding
we
to
don't
future?
we don't really get involved between the fight between the Israelis and the Palestinians. We believe that we need, I'm the president, I believe I have to give a veto power to the Palestinian government because in my opinion, they can prevent me from building it. And I don't want them to prevent me from building it. Why are you complaining? You have a veto.
Oh, no, I'm happy because we want sovereignty over Jerusalem. But what I'm trying to say is we're absolutely powerless when it comes to anything. This is like asking me to build a light rail.
Why are you raising unnecessary issues?
It's not unnecessary because, for example, there's a light rail that's being built right now that's going to connect Columbia to the south of Jerusalem, and this is.
We are talking about the Nakba Museum. Okay.
Okay.
Does Mr. Abu Tayeh, do you have any questions regarding this legislation or comments? I don't hear.
I don't see him. I think he's disconnected.
He disconnected?
Yeah, maybe he lost internet or something.
Okay, let's
Maybe.
have a, does anyone have any questions or comments questions, not comments, questions regarding the Nakba Museum? Okay, hearing no questions, I'm going to have the Palestinian parliament members please vote. Do you agree with this legislation? Do you accept this legislation? Okay, publish the votes. 100% of the Palestinian parliament members in this common government that is separate from the Israeli and separate from the Palestinian government voted in favor of this legislation. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Please vote. Israeli parliament members, please vote. Please stop the vote and share the results. 100% of the Israeli parliament members voted in favor of this museum. Let's go to the Israeli parliament. Let's start with the Hamas leader. Mr. Hamas leader, are you going to veto this legislation?
He just
No.
reconnected, Joseph, by the way.
I'm sorry?
Waleed Abu Tayeh just connected again. He's back.
Oh, okay. Mr. Abu Tayeh, do you have any questions regarding this legislation? By the way, the parliament passed it, both Israeli and Palestinian parliament members. Mr. Abu Tayeh, do you have any questions?
Unmute yourself, please. Waleed, unmute yourself.
Okay. It's okay now?
Yeah. Do you have,
Okay.
while you were gone, doing your business,
No,
the parliament members voted to
Yeah.
both the Israelis and the Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of this museum.
yeah. But
Do you have any questions or
no,
comments?
no, it's okay. It's
Okay,
okay.
all right. So let's go to the Hamas leader. Mr. Hamas leader, are you going to veto this legislation?
No, I think it's important to learn history and now, because history concerns now. So yeah, I'm not going to vote it. Yeah,
You're not going to veto it.
no, I'm not, sorry, I'm not going to veto it, sorry.
Okay, let's go to the PA president. Mr. President, are you going to veto this legislation?
No, I'm not going to veto it, and I hope that my citizens will be able to freely go there and visit and learn about the history of the Nakba.
Of course. And let's go to the Prime Minister of Israel. Mr. Prime Minister of Israel, are you going to veto this legislation?
Well, as it's presented, yes. I mean, I might be open to something that portrays the founding of the state of Israel, and maybe some history of both sides, but I don't want anything that establishes the idea of a Palestinian identity. So yes, I would veto it.
Okay, will you be open to an amendment that would include the declaration of the state of Israel in the museum?
As long as it presented the Israeli side with the suffering of Jews and the difficulties they faced in founding their state, and what a great project.
All right. Okay. Let's go to the next legislation. A common police force.
Hey, Joseph, can I ask you something real quick?
Sure.
Something that's very suitable to this particular presentation today. We have legislation about Kalandia. So could that be one of the ones that we discussed today? Because it's been basically deals specifically with the constituents of Waleed Abu Tayeh.
Oh,
The one with the Kalandia checkpoint, because it would be very interesting to hear his perspective and questions on that legislation. But I mean, it could be after this, but I just would hope that it'd be one that we can discuss today.
Okay, okay.
I can do it right now if you
Okay.
want.
Yeah, because Kalandia checkpoint comes between Kufr Aqab and Beit Hanina, which are
Yeah.
two constituents for him. So it would be interesting to hear his view on it. Thank you, Mr. Waleed. I'm also from Beit Hanina, by the way.
Yeah, you're welcome.
My grandson joined the meeting. Okay. Libby, could you please read this legislation about converting Kalandia into an education and commerce center?
Located on the main road between Ramallah and Jerusalem, this legislation seeks to reduce unnecessary hardship and congestion at the checkpoint without increasing security risk to the Palestinian or Israeli people. This includes the expansion of the number of entrances and exits, creating easy ingress and egress for both Palestinians and Israelis. A fast lane for frequent travelers, converting the entire area into an education and commercial zone. Construction of a state-of-the-art hospital, including a children's hospital to serve Palestinians and Israelis. The entire area will be managed by the Confederation in cooperation with the Palestinian and Israeli authorities. We hereby submit this legislation to the Israeli government, the Palestinian government, and Hamas, bestowing upon them a veto power which may be exercised in the next 60 days.
All right, does anyone have any questions regarding this legislation?
Yes, I have a question just in terms of funding these projects and in terms of administrating them. You have three entities, so I'm not clear where the funding for such a project and decision-making would take place between the three entities.
Okay, we anticipate receiving international funding and also funding from the Israeli and the Palestinian governments.
So it would flow through the IPC, if I understand that.
Yes, the IPC would be in charge. The IPC would be in charge of this Kalandia checkpoint. Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Abu Tayeh, do you have any questions regarding this legislation?
I think the wall, we have to destroy the wall. It's not necessary. The wall is not necessary. We have to make it open city between Kalandia and Jerusalem and Beit Hanina. It has to be open city without walls, without checkpoint.
I agree. I agree. The problem is that we also have an Israeli side here, and we have to find legislation that neither side can oppose, rather than one side want and the other side has a legitimate reason or perceived legitimate reason to oppose. Let's go to the parliament members. Palestinian parliament members, please vote. And the polling. Share the results. 90% of the Palestinian parliament members voted yes. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Please vote. Okay, end this polling and share the results. 83% of the Israeli parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. I'm going to have one more legislation about what we intended at the beginning. But before that, let's go to the Hamas leader. Mr. Hamas leader, are you going to veto the legislation?
Honestly, I'm not quite sure if this is a good idea for the people living there. Would it reduce tension there? Would it help the people there that are living in refugees?
Are you going to veto this legislation?
I'm gonna quite veto it, yes. Because I don't know if this is beneficial to the people there. Yeah.
Okay. You know, we have another legislation about joint economic zone between Israel and Gaza. If you veto this, then the Israeli the Israeli Prime Minister may veto the legislation about. This will help the Palestinian people both in Gaza and in Jerusalem.
If there's any alternatives, then I think I will not veto it. If it can make another stepping stone for another joint economic, then I probably won't veto it.
Okay,
Okay.
let's go to the PA. Mr. PA President, are you going to veto this legislation?
Yes, I'm gonna veto it, and for the same reason that Mr. Waleed said, this checkpoint is absolutely needs to come down. It needs to be gone. There's no fast lane. There's no slow lane. There's no VIPs or anything like that. This is a checkpoint that comes between two Palestinian towns, Beit Hanina, Kalandia, Aram. This checkpoint does not divide Israelis from Palestinians. It divides Palestinians from Palestinians. So it needs to be eradicated. And also Kalandia serves as the former airport for the people of East Jerusalem in the area.
Okay, Mr. PA leader, how long have you been the PA leader?
Since I can't remember, 2000. What has it been, 20 something years? I don't
Okay.
know.
And you haven't been able to demolish this wall, and you want to have a perfect legislation. Isn't that a little bit hypocritical on your part?
I don't think it's hypocritical because there's certain parameters that we want for human rights. And I think that when we start to acknowledge that we can be separated behind walls, you know, what I say is build a wall around an Israeli city and build it there. Put checkpoints around Israeli cities.
Isn't your veto in effect sanctioning that the wall will remain?
It's not sanctioning, but it's not giving a cover for it. It's not giving there's no Coke and Diet Coke. It's all Coke in the end. So, so little occupation versus big occupation is occupation.
Regardless of whether.
So this is sugar. This is sugar coated occupation.
If you veto this legislation, what you see in this picture will remain. And the Palestinian people in Ramallah and the West Bank will continue to suffer because of your veto. You realize that?
Well, here's the thing. Even if this legislation passes, the only people who are allowed to go through the checkpoint are people who have permits, which are hard to obtain for many people. The only people who are residents of Kufr Aqab, who are actually residents of the city of Jerusalem, who have to drive through this checkpoint to go to work and spend hours extra in the car. Me personally, well, forget, I'm president, I can't say that, but from me personally, who I am, I've spent 2 hours waiting to get through this checkpoint.
Okay.
Drive 15 kilometers. It doesn't make sense. So I don't think that this.
Okay, Mr. President, I was down before, but I'll have to be blunt. First of all, you have no legitimacy whatsoever. You haven't been elected in 20 years, okay? Second of all, you are harming the people of Palestine and Israel. And I'm going to work hard to find leadership in the Palestinian population to work and replace you, because you are not really legitimate.
So
you're harming the people.
If I'm not legitimate, if I'm not legitimate, why did your confederation bestow veto powers upon me? So now you've given me the veto power. I've used the veto power, which were granted to me by the confederation, and you don't like my decision.
I don't like your decision.
So are you going to go form a new Palestinian entity government that's going to agree with you?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
That's just what you just said right now.
No, we recognize your power. We do not recognize your legitimacy. We recognize the Israeli government's power. We don't recognize their legitimacy. We recognize Hamas's power. We don't recognize their legitimacy. Okay. But we have the right to call upon you, even though you have power. We recognize you have power. Okay. But we are saying, if you use your power in a manner that is harming my people, I'm the president of this whole thing. I'm the president of Israel Palestine. You are using your power in a manner that is contradictory to the interest of my people. people who voted for me, people, parliament members in Ramallah. Therefore, I am going to use my political power to try to get a better, in my opinion, a better leadership in Israel, Palestine.
I am confident that the Palestinian people in general would never support anything like this, because it's like I said, no, we don't like walls and we don't like checkpoints.
You
Yeah.
can be confident. They voted in favor of this. Your confidence is not well taken. We already, parliament members, Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. Why are you confident? These are people who represent, who are legitimately elected. You are not legitimately elected. You just have the power. All right, I think we exhausted this point. Let's go to one more legislation. Let me see. What time is? I think we'll just. I think we exhausted the point. Let's go to one more legislation.
Did we hear from the Israeli president?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. The Israeli president. Are you going to veto this legislation?
Well, if they're against it, I guess I'm for it. I would
Yeah,
want,
you
I
look
would-
good now.
I will look good and.
Yeah, you look good. There, you look like a, you know,
Yeah,
they.
as long as,
But Hamas leader did not vote veto it. It's just the PA leader.
well, as long as, Israel retains ultimate control through the process, I guess I could tolerate something that would afford less tension in the region.
Look, you're not doing anyone a favor. You need to. We are helping you to extricate your people from this nightmare.
Yeah, well, I have to justify it to those people. So that's how I justify it.
Okay. All right, let's go to our next legislation, the one that we intended, and that's a common police force. Libby, could you please read out the legislation about common police force?
Equal number of Israeli and Palestinians at each level. Distinct uniforms for the common police force different from the Israeli or Palestinian police force. Independent of the Israeli and Palestinian security forces. In cooperation with the separate Israeli and Palestinian authorities. Address sensitive religious, cultural, and language requirements. Facilitate the operation of the joint economic zones. Investigate corruption by administrators who refuse to teach tolerance. Investigate allegations of intolerance and racist hate crime against Israelis or Palestinians. Assist in managing checkpoints. Guard the parliament building and threats against members of the Confederation. Facilitate access to and safety of religious facilities. We hereby submit this legislation to the Israeli government, the Palestinian government, and Hamas, and we bestow upon them a veto power which may be exercised in the next 60 days.
Mr. Abu Tayeh, do you have any questions regarding this common police force?
No, it's okay.
Okay, does anyone have any questions regarding this common police force legislation? Okay, hearing no questions, let's take a vote. Palestinian parliament members, please vote. Palestinian. Okay. Publish the vote. 100% of the Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members, please vote. Okay. And publish the vote. Terrific, 100% of the Israeli parliament members. Let's go to the Prime Minister of Israel, let's be quick. So I want to give Mr. Abu Tayeh time to answer questions. Mr. Prime Minister of Israel, are you going to veto this legislation?
No,
no, as long as I can help with the formation of the details of how it would be actually carried out.
Okay, Mr. PA, Palestinian Authority President, are you going to veto this legislation?
I'm still thinking, 1 second. Not gonna veto it. I do have a little bit of reservations, but I'm not gonna veto it.
Okay, let's go to Hamas leader. Are you going to veto this legislation?
No, I'm not going to veto it, but one question, the common police force, will that eliminate the IDF, the people like the IDF in West Bank and the IDF guarding the Gaza border is really, will that make, instead of having the IDF, will it have the common police force instead of the IDF?
Well, it says in cooperation with the Israeli and the Palestinian government, so therefore it's not going to eliminate it on day one, but we will do our utmost.
I support this, but as long as it will change the IDF instead of having the IDF in control, it will have the common police in control. That's, well, yeah.
Okay, let's go to, I didn't forget anything, right? Let's go to Mr. Abu Tayeh. Mr. Abu Tayeh, do you have any comments regarding the simulation that you have seen up to now?
I have an idea. I have a good idea. Before we thinking about the Israel and Palestinian, let us start the idea in the region of Jerusalem. Jerusalem will be a good model. If we succeed in Jerusalem, so will we succeed all the historical Palestinian or the all from the sea to the river. So let us start. It's good. I think this will be a good idea if we start the reconciliation in Jerusalem, the Jerusalem regime. This is my now I have this. Just thought in thinking this idea.
Are you proposing that we will create a common government just for Jerusalem?
Not just let us try to make a settlement or reconciliation in Jerusalem. If we succeed in Jerusalem, we will succeed in all the country. This is take Jerusalem as a model, as a sample. This is my
Why not start with the whole area, Israel, Palestine, rather than Jerusalem?
Because it's will take a small sample. It's a small sample. The Jerusalem is small sample. If we succeed, so we will succeed in all the area. This is my one. We started a small thing, and we continue to implement the situation in Jerusalem to all the country.
Let me ask you this. We had assumptions, and the assumptions was that if we have an election that lasts 3 months, 3 million Palestinians will vote and 1.5 and 2 million Israelis would vote. What are your, if we actually have the election and we have 100% awareness of this election, and we have time to campaign for this election and to let people understand what it is, do you think that it is realistic to have that 5 million people will vote, 3 million Palestinians and 2 million Israelis?
I think before voting, I think we have to give the people their rights, because the Palestinian people have no rights, especially in Jerusalem or in the West Bank. They have, when we have equal of rights, when we have pay our duties, and we shall have our rights. This is the first thing. If
who will give them the rights?
The Israeli control all the country.
So you think we should wait until the Israelis who haven't given the Palestinian the rights for 75 years, we should wait until they give the Palestinian the rights? Is that what you're saying?
They must give.
I understand, but you're saying we should wait until the Israelis give them the rights?
No, the Palestinian, we have to ask, and the Israeli oppose the this thing.
But
So
you realize you failed for 75 years, more than 75 years. So so why wait until the Palestinians and the Israelis, who are really a failure, to create a common government? Why wait?
so this is the point. I think that if we start in Jerusalem, let us first of all let the Israeli government give the citizen of the resident of Jerusalem their rights. And if they give us, because we are a resident of Israel, we are not resident of the Palestinian Authority. We are controlled by Israel. Israel have no. Israel has to stop the discrimination, the ethnic cleansing.
I understand, but they haven't done that for 75 years. So you're saying let's have the Palestinian and let's start in Jerusalem? How would the people in Gaza feel if you start in Jerusalem only? It doesn't make sense to me, but let's have people ask you a question. Let's start with Nasir.
Okay.
Nasir, go ahead and ask your question, and then we go to Erica. And you can raise, you need to unmute, Nasir. Nasir, you need to unmute.
Okay, I'm muted. I'm unmuted. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Waleed. Mr. Waleed, I want to address a question to you regarding the Palestinian population of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Most of whom are not citizens, they're residents. So that means they can only participate in the municipal election, and which they don't. I think it's like 80–90% of them do not participate. So you're coming under a lot of fire because, including, not just from the Mufti, but from other Palestinians, that you are somehow normalizing Israeli control of the city. Now, when you talk about let's start Jerusalem as the model for building cooperation among Israelis and Palestinians. Now, let me ask you something. Isn't that the model that you see in the 48 areas where you have Israeli citizens who are Palestinians and Arabs, 60% of whom live under poverty line? No, I mean, how many new Arab cities have you seen in the 48 territories? So the critics, including myself, are saying to you that participating in an Israeli government over control of Jerusalem, which is basically turning the city that used to be 50-50 Arab, Israeli, and now is about maybe 25, 30, 40%, because the settlements that are being expanded in East Jerusalem, Nevi Yaakov, Peskat Zaev, Ma'ale Adumim, etc. So in a sense, this government establishment is seizing control. In about the next 10 to 15 years, we're going to have about 17% of Jerusalem be Palestinian. So the model that you're saying is the same model that's been applied in the 48 territories, and it's been a disaster for Palestinians. Some have done well, but the majority are not doing well. We don't see new Arab cities popping up in the Galilee, in the Triangle. We just see a continuation of Israelis expanding cities, Jewish-only cities. We see Bedouin communities in the Negev being removed. And this is the model that you're trying to basically introduce into Jerusalem. And this is why Palestinians are scared. There is over 40,000 Palestinians that lost their residency rights, including my family in Jerusalem. Parents who lived there for 40 years.
I don't understand. Are you saying that if Nasir runs for, if he becomes a mayor of
Waleed.
Jerusalem?
Yes, Waleed. What I'm saying is, how does he,
if Waleed, there are two alternatives. One is that Waleed will be the mayor, and one is that Waleed will not be the mayor.
Exactly.
Okay? All right.
So my question is,
explain to me, how does Waleed becoming mayor harming the Palestinian of Jerusalem?
Because it's working within the same paradigm that has not worked with the Arab mayors of 48 territories, with the Arab leaders who've tried and failed in the Knesset to make a change for the better lives for Palestinian citizens of Israel. Okay, I'm arguing to him that we cannot work within a one-state solution will not work with Zionism, because Zionism is inherently Jewish supremacy. And this is what he's participating in the municipal elections and trying to participate is basically going to be a continuation of what we saw in the 48 lands, which has been, not good for the Palestinians in general.
So you're saying he's validating Zionism?
I'm not saying he personally. I like him. He's a great man. I like him. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying the model that the model is, this is why, and he has to answer to his critics. Why do you think Jerusalem will be different than al-Fahim? then Lid, then Haifa? Why will it be different?
There's difference because in the Nazareth and Haifa and all in Israel in the Green Line, there is difference between the power of the Arab. The power of the Arab is 20%, but the real power is 10%. They have no power. In Jerusalem, they have a big power. We have 40% of the population in Jerusalem is the Arabs. But first of all, we have to demand our rights because we have no rights. We have power. We have to use our power, 40%. If we enter the municipality with 40%, we will have a right. Now you have to leave the political issue. Now we deal with the duties and rights because all the Jerusalem population pay their taxes and their duty. They have first of all they have their rights. If they have their rights, and the Jerusalem population have a big power. They have 40% of the city, and the election in the Israeli is just 50 or 40%. If we participate, we will have power. And according to the international law, and there is a civil convenient which says that each population under occupation have the right to deal with themselves. That means they have the right to participate in the election, and at the same time they have their right of self-determination. Also, of the participation of the Jerusalem population, they didn't recognize that means the participation of the Arab in the municipality does not mean that they are recognize the occupation. For me, I'm against the occupation. So, but first of all, we have to feel that we are a human being. We have to stop the demolition of the houses. We have to stop the confiscation of the land. We have to reduce the taxes. Because our standard of living is very slower than the Israeli, because we have 80% of the beverage in the West Bank. We have to take education, to good education. We have to participate in the jobs in the municipality. So first of all, we have to take our right to stay, to survive. Still now, there is ethnic cleansing, there is discrimination, and now, especially in the Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, they want to give out us. They want to take our from Jerusalem. So. First of all, we have to survive. We have to stay. This is the main thing, and we are not. No Arabs recognize the consideration. Also, the Jewish, a few of the Jews against the occupation, and I have a little of things, a lot of things to say, and. Let me just a minute.
Take your time.
Well,
Take your time. Take your time.
we have a lot. We have for example, I'll give you some examples. The size of Jerusalem, the occupation, the East Jerusalem is 20 square kilometers. And we are the Arab 400,000 people just in the area of 20 square meters, and in the East Jerusalem, the Jewish is half of us, 200,000, take the 60 square meters from the 80%, 80 square meters. We don't speak about the West Bank. And for the budget, for example, the budget of the municipality of Jerusalem, it's two kinds of budget, regular budget and development budget. And the budget of the municipality, it's $5 billion. The Arab pay from it $2 billion, but they didn't take anything, just a few things. The poverty of the Arab, 85%. It's standard of living. There is discrimination. There is injustice. There is ethnic cleansing, unfair, and the Arab told that we are from the 1967. They have a national consensus that they take the position that they want to participate in the municipality. There is a national consensus, but now after the occupation for 60 years, we have to the interest. There is a national interest more than important, more than the national consensus. And what was the education? We have no education. The young people, most of the young people goes from the schools. And about the houses, we have demolished houses. We have the property or confiscation of property. We have the real fact is that the Arab want to participate to take their rights because they have no rights, but they are afraid to participate. They have to afraid from each other, and they have afraid from the Palestinian Authority. And in the same time, the Israeli, they want told in the propaganda, and they are a democratic state, but in fact they are not democratic state. The Israel did want to Arab participate because they will not divide the cake. They want all the cake for the Israeli, and they want and the cake, the resource of the municipality just for the Israeli. And now we have the fatwa. The fatwa is very the history is the fatwa is 50 years ago, but we have according to the religion, there is the religion and the Sharia. It does not tell let us just a minute. The fatwa and the Sharia, they have no.
Can you explain what the fatwa says? What is the fatwa and what does it say?
The fatwa, it's political thing that we have no right. We have not to participate in the municipal.
A fatwa means decree, Joseph, in Arabic. Like
No,
a decree.
I know. I just want for the audience to understand what the fatwa says and what did it say in respect to you? Did the fatwa
adversary opinion? It's adversary opinion. It's adversary.
But it's a religious decree, correct?
Yes, but it's not correct. It's political fatwa. It's not the religion, because the religious, there is something principle in the religious. What's the necessities permit prohibition. That means if there is something make you bad, but in some cases, you, for example, in the Islam, you forbidden to eat whiskey, to drink this kind of, but in special cases, you can in order to survive, you can drink whiskey. And the situation of the Arab in Jerusalem is very bad. It's very bad. So it's very bad. We have power to participate and to take our rights. This is
Okay, Mr. Abu Tayeh, we have people want to ask you a question. If you can keep your answers short, that will give a lot of more people an opportunity to ask you.
Yeah.
Let's go to Erica Reef, and then Shlomo, and then Gail Nestel.
By the way, thank you. Thank you, Waleed. I do support you. I just wanted to drag that answer out of you.
yeah, I have a lot of things. It's short time because
Because I wanted to hear it because this is what needs to be said to the people. So thank you for that
Okay,
response.
Let's go to Erica Reef. Please unmute, Erica.
Yes, hi.
uh,
Yeah, attentively. Master for promoting that, prompting that. I think he's making a very great point because incorporating this experiment nationwide, Israel Palestine, might be met with a lot of pushback. So I don't know whether Jerusalem will work with all the right-wing people that would push back, but I think the idea of identifying a city that's demographically more equal Arab, or Palestinian, Israeli. Because I have a book here. I'm studying up on Jews that want to regain their Arab identity. And have it presented as, let's experiment with this in this one area. I think that could maybe get less pushback, and I think it'd be a fascinating idea. So I think what he's saying now, I don't know that Jerusalem will be accepting that because there's, putting the embassies there and everything is crazy. It would be great, but I think that could work, and just say that we want this confederation as an experiment and identify a town. So.
All right, are you asking Mr. Abu Tayeh, or are you asking me?
Yeah, both of you. I'm asking if you, because this is partly more your project, would consider starting it in one area rather than trying to get it.
I am against that. I am against experimenting. No government in the world experimented. This is just a poison pill to make it go away. There is no democracy in the world that experimented in one city or in selective area. There is nothing wrong with creating a common government. I believe people will participate and people will vote. And I am against creating artificial obstacles to try to see if it works or not. There are not special people in Israel, Palestine. We should have a common government without experimenting. And even if it succeeds or does not succeed in Jerusalem, it doesn't mean that it's going to succeed or not succeed in Gaza and in Haifa or in Tel Aviv. It's not a scientific experiment. It's just a poison pill to prevent it from happening, in my opinion.
I'm saying, I'm using the word.
I think in my opinion, the one of the reason why Oslo death or failed because they delay the Jerusalem issue, because this is the main fail of the Oslo agreement, that they delay the Jerusalem issue. The heart of the conflict, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, is Jerusalem. It's by religion, by thought, by belief. We have a strong belief in Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa and old city. This is the main reason that Oslo failed. Sorry to say that.
Erica,
Well, I'm saying experiment in the context of that founding fathers of America said, called democracy and America an experiment. So I'm not saying, I think it needs to work. I think Jerusalem is the ideal place. I'm just asking you if you've spoken to enough people that you think it can be incorporated nationwide, statewide.
like I said, I am against experimenting. I don't think that this is something that is experimental. Israel had a nationwide election the first time, didn't experiment in Tel Aviv or in one city. if you really want to have a common government, you create a common government and you let the people vote, and that would be the experiment. Let's have the real thing with real awareness, with real right to vote, and let's not play games to make it to destroy it. That's my opinion. No government in the world has experimented before it had an election. Why subject the Israeli and the Palestinian people to a artificial experiment? That doesn't make sense to me. It's like I said, it's a poison pill.
Okay, you're still not understanding or using it, but I mean, do you realistically think that the entire state of Israel and Palestine together are going to incorporate this across the board? What your
I
proposition?
am saying that if we have an election, and if we have total awareness, and if we have the budget, like I said, $100 million to make it happen, I believe that it is realistic that 5 million people will vote. And that's the only experiment that we should have, not artificial, not wait until some people say, why don't, like the previous speaker said, why don't we have a public opinion poll and all of that thing? In my opinion, all of these preconditions or pre-experiments or public opinion polls are designed to destroy it. Let's have the real thing, the real election, and let the people of Israel and Palestine decide. And besides, you cannot really have an experiment. You have to have parliament members. You have to have parliament members running and offering their views. You will have to have a president and vice president. You just can't, even if you wanted to have an experiment, it would not reflect the real thing. It would not, it has to come from the people, a government by the people, for the people, and parliament members running in their districts and offering their agenda and having people decide whether or not you want to vote for them. Experiment, even if you want to design it, even if you honestly want to design it, it's not, you cannot honestly have a experiment, an honest, fair, objective experiment.
You're getting hung up on my word experiment. I meant enact it would be more in one place, because I think that would be more doable than across the board in a place where there are more liberal Israelis. Because otherwise, I think Israel's going to, like, Jerusalem would be ideal, but I think Israel going to veto so much stuff. It's going to be ridiculous. Anyway, that's
Okay.
yeah.
I think we exhausted. Let's go to Shlomo and then Gail and then Libby and Erica. If you want to come again, then just lower your hand and then raise it again. So yeah, if you think about how to, if you have a reoccurring thought. Okay, Shlomo.
So I see some, either I don't understand or there is inconsistency all along. I thought that the major assumption that we have in the IPC is that all are equal. All the people, Arabs, Israelis, Jews, whatever, we are all equal. If we are all equal, all these legislations are irrelevant. Once there are equal rights, the people will decide, or this government will decide. Obviously, there are no checkpoints, there are no walls. Obviously, we are one country, and that's it. If it is not true, if only this simulation, in this simulation, we are equal, suppose, and we try to be realistic and say, look, yeah, we want equality, but right now the situation is such and such. There are checkpoints, there are walls, etc., and we are trying to optimize to do something. I think this is if this is the case, it is hopeless because the Israeli government is in charge, and that's it. And they will not accept anything that implies equality. They don't want equality. And I disagree a little bit with Waleed. The main point is not Jerusalem. The main point is land. Israel wants land. It wants all the land and wants it basically with only Jews. So that's the truth. This is why the Oslo agreement, and it was all play. It was all like, you know, they're trying to, they pretend, oh yeah, we want to, yeah, we want two-state solution. Yeah, sure. You know, and the truth we know, they don't. So that's my, so why we are coming here. We should assume equality. We should, the only legislation, I would just erase all of these legislations, which is only one, which will say, which will demand that we are all equal, that we have equal rights, Arabs, Jews, etc. That would be my own legislation for this IPC.
Well, you can have that legislation that says we're all equal, but we have to deal with practicality. Okay, there is the occupation, there is the apartheid, there is the Jerusalem issue. We have to deal with practicality, and we have to deal with reality. The reality is that you have a powerful Israeli government, and you have a significant Palestinian government, okay? And you have to deal with those existing governments. If we had a switch that could make those governments disappear, we would vote on that, but we don't have that switch. You have to deal with reality, okay? That's why you have 50 states in the United States. It would have been better if there was one state, then that's it, one federal government, but we have to deal with 50 states, with 50 governors, with 50 judicial powers, with 50 constitutions. So you create what's practical under the circumstances. That's what the IPC is all about.
But the United States, all people, all citizens are equal, at least formally are equal. So
But they are equal. They are equal by the federal government, but they are not equal in Texas and in California. In Texas, you're not allowed to have abortion, but in California, you do. Okay, so there is no equality. We strive for equality, but all right. Let's go to I'm sorry. Go ahead, Waleed.
In this world, there is no justice. There is no justice, and there is no law. In this world, there are just two things: power and interest. Now, in Jerusalem, we have the power. 40% of the population, if we participate in the population, we will have a power in the Jerusalem Council. We have to use our power. We have a power. We have the power to change. This is if Israel, the Israel government, we saw that we have the use our power, they will change their policy. This is the point. We have to participate in the. It's not advertising, but it's the power. We have to use the power and the interest. This is the point. Excuse me.
Okay, let's go to Gail.
Could I?
I'd like to speak to, I agree with Mr. Abu Tayeh in terms of his model. It's not uncommon at all to do, from a policy perspective, to do a test case on policy anywhere in the world. I live in Canada, and many times when there's a new policy on a social program, for example, the United States have states. In Canada, we have provinces, and some provinces do test cases on certain social programs. And then if it works well, other provinces observe it and pick it up or don't pick it up. But we also have a system in Canada where the provinces have certain sovereignty over how to deliver health legislation, for example, funding for health, which causes us problems because there's a lot of inequities across the country in terms of delivery. But the point is that you have to give different regions the sovereignty to do what they want. Also, Mr. Abu Tayeh is running for the mayor of Jerusalem, so that's the extent of his mandate. He can only speak to the mandate that he's running for election on. So I completely agree with that model. I think particularly in Israel, when you have to start small because it's an explosive, emotionally and otherwise explosive society. And so, and actually Israel, Jerusalem is an interesting choice
Yeah,
because it's both a small choice, but it's also an explosive, potentially explosive choice because of Al-Aqsa and the wall and the Wailing Wall and all that. So
churches.
it's going to be without question a challenge,
Yeah,
but it's the right location because of all of the politicality around it to test there, because if you succeed there, you can
Yeah.
succeed in more secular locations.
yeah, right.
I was a little bit late this morning, but I just wanted to speak to the issue of the Kalandia checkpoint. I was at Kalandia checkpoint in 2013 with Mahsom Watch, and this is not this is not an easy checkpoint by any stretch of the imagination. So it has to come down in order to symbolize equality, but it's extremely militarized. I mean, we drove through there, and I was shocked to see a private contractor hitmen with machine guns standing all around as the cars were driving through. It was stunningly horrible. So it absolutely has to come down. Those structures must not exist anymore. But start with Jerusalem and go from there.
Yeah,
I mean, the policy of ethnic cleansing is obvious. The policy of ethnic cleansing is obvious. In the occupied territories, it's a genocide. It's a slow genocide. And that's how they're successful, with it, because as we say in Yiddish, a shtickle here and a shtickle there, and nobody will notice, a little bit here and a little bit there. You cut little pieces and do small
transfer.
yeah.
It's a transfer, quiet transfer. Quiet
Quiet,
transfer.
but the wars are not so quiet. But otherwise, when they tear down a house or two every week, it's slow. I mean, it's obvious, but somehow people have developed enough cognitive dissonance to overlook it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Let's go to Libby and then Samir and then Charles.
I'm sure you all are aware of and have heard of Neve Shalom Wahad Salam. It's a village where families choose to live together. And I'm not saying, this is the model that you're going to follow, but I do think that they've been living together for 20 or 30 years, maybe more than that.
Northern.
So there are lessons to be learned from them about what worked and what didn't. I realize that people who live in Neve Shalom tend to have money, they can buy property, they live. So it seems to include a different part of society. Nevertheless, they've had a lot of struggles about fairness and who's in charge and who has the final word. So they've really struggled to make that village successful. So I do think that we can learn from their experience and perhaps carry some of that into Jerusalem. Jerusalem, to me, is the city that the whole world is familiar with. It's in every Sunday school class. Everybody looks at it as the city of peace. And we have all these projections on what Jerusalem should be and should look like. So it would be fantastic if it could be a model of what we're talking about. Once again, it's not the big IPC government that Joseph is talking about, but it could be a good beginning of how citizens can work together, cooperate, and want the best for each other in an area that could then make true its name, the city of peace, the city of brotherly love. So I wish you well. And you talk about power. I would emphasize relationships. I don't think you can really make people do things. I think people have to want to do things. I think they want to be in relationship. They want to be safe. They want to have equal rights for their children and education. So, if Jerusalem can begin to point everybody in that direction, I think it would go a long way in inspiring the rest of Israel and Palestine to say, yes, we should be doing this. This is indeed possible. So good luck to you, and I'll vote for you if I can.
Thank you. When I mentioned the power, it's not it's a political power, economic power, not what's called with the soldiers. Not the power is the power, because in these last decades there is no law and there is no justice. But the government of Israel knows just interest and power, political power, including the interest and including the economic power. I am not about weapon. I'm not mentioning the weapon. This is the point. Because we have a power in Jerusalem, we have 40% of the population is Arab, is Palestinian. So if they participate, we will be participate in the Council of Jerusalem decision. We will stop the demolition of houses. We stop the confiscation of land. We support education, the good education. If you have good education, there it will be less than terror action. If there is a good education, it will be less terrorist. This is we have to the people to live to be equal as the Jewish standard, high standard of living as the Jewish side. And we have to build a new houses for the Palestinian, for the young people. There is no building of the houses. It's difficult to now we have in Jerusalem transfer, quiet transfer, just like that. The lot of problems we have in Jerusalem. So if we the young people want to live as a human being, not as a terrorist. Excuse me.
Let's go to Samir, then Charles, and then Nasir.
All right. Hi, everybody. Okay.
Hi, Samir.
Yes, I agree with Waleed, and as he presented the whole case, it is actually Jerusalem is the case of apartheid and a case of occupation. I mean, there is no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And definitely for the Palestinians and the Israelis, they have to deal with it. And they have to solve it. And once they solve that problem, it will be a good example for the rest of the country.
Yes.
And
I agree. I agree.
yes. And in order, I mean, to that to happen, is for the Palestinian to participate in the elections, definitely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they represent 40% of Jerusalem, and then they will have power, and that power will be presented in the political decision, definitely. And that will succeed, and there is a big chance of that to succeed. So it is a good suggestion, and that's a good solution for Jerusalem. And I think that will reflect on the whole country.
Right.
I agree with that.
We
Thank
need
you, Waleed.
we need the civil rights. We don't know, as Abu Mazen told us, don't speak about politics. We just speak about duties and rights. Duties and rights. We have no idea of politics. We ask for duties. We pay all our duties, so we have to get all our rights. When you pay for the ticket of the airplane,
Right.
you have to go to fly with the. So
That's
we have,
right. Abu Mazen is wrong. Abu Mazen is wrong. You're right. You're right. And you should be the mayor of Jerusalem. Yes.
if you support us, we will be. If we have to get support.
Yes, we
from
support.
Jerusalem, from our abroad, from Palestinian people, because it's stop all the time. We ask all the time from 1947 we are the Palestinian all we doesn't agree, we did nothing, and the other side they told that we accept, and they have done what they want to do. We have to change our mind, our
You're right. Your mentality,
Yeah.
your man.
I'm sorry
that's the time
to
do.
speak, but this is totally mislead, Mr. Waleed. This is totally mislead information to say the Palestinian بالرفيوزن يعني كيف الفلسطينيين رفضوا هذا حكي مش مقبول حبيبي مع احترامي لك. I'm sorry.
ليش بنحكي بعدين مش مشكلة. We will speak
No,
another
حبيبي,
time.
no. When you come to blame it on Palestinians so you can get support, this is wrong, and this is totally deception. This is a totally deception idea.
I didn't
Where you
understand it
can
like
blame
that.
the Palestinian to be refusing, and the Palestinian been the victim from day one until now. This is
Right,
totally
you are
unacceptable,
right.
حبيبي.
You are right. I am ready to speak with you, to deal with you everything. I have another example. If we have enough time for the
I do have time. I'm listening. I'm enjoying this. I'm seeing the communication between all. But for you to run an office and you want to present Palestinians and Israelis, and you blame it on the Palestinian,
I'm not that we have to change our attitude. We have to change. I'm not.
That's right.
That's a difference between changing your attitude and blaming us as we refuse every opportunity in peace because we never given an opportunity of peace.
No. Okay, I'm ready. It's I have two examples. For example, we have in 1948 between Nazareth and Jaffa. Nazareth, when the Israeli occupied Nazareth, the mayor of Nazareth called Yusuf Rahum. He signed an agreement with the Israeli to let us in Nazareth to stay. No one leave Nazareth. The number of population in Nazareth was 10,000 people. Now it's 100,000. If you go to Jaffa, the mayor of Jaffa was Dr. Yusuf Hakel. He go to Jordan and he came back and told the population of Jaffa, I am leaving. Who want to leave, he can leave with me. Who want to stay, he can stay. 90% of Jaffa, 90,000 of the population leave, and now still in Jaffa.
Yeah, but you telling me that Israel was given every town and village that destroyed in Palestine?
No.
They all leave?
Okay, we will speak another time. I ask Joseph to take me to give our phone. I'll speak you. I'm ready to speak because they have no time. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
You can exchange my phone with him, Joseph. I love to speak to him. So if you want to be the mayor of Jerusalem, I think you have to carry the Palestinian interest as equal as he carry everybody else.
I will happy to give you.
Let's go to Charles and then Dan, and then I don't know if Gail wants to speak again. That's fine, and Nasir. Charles.
Hi, thanks for participating. It's really been amazing. So I have a two-parted question for you. The first is, what can those of us in the diaspora, in the United States, whatever, do to support your candidacy? And the second question is, how do you see, if you are able to succeed and become the mayor of Jerusalem, do you see how this additional power you'll have at your command can be used to effectively interrupt those countries who help maintain the occupation by doing business in the occupied territories?
The first question is about the Ispera, that if they support me, it will be good. I'll be the mayor. I ask them to support me, public and in every way. If that's they have to support me. I think to include because I am as a lawyer. I want to prevent the unjust, they're unfair in Jerusalem.
How would they go about doing that? I mean, is there like a website or how would they support your candidacy in Jerusalem?
Speak with Abu Mazen, with the Palestinian
Do you have
Authority.
a website, or if someone wants to donate
I
money?
will. I am preparing for that. I will in a couple of days. Yes, I couple. And if they have money support, it's the campaign. It cost me a lot of money. It's more than a million shekels. It's a lot of money here in Israel. But I ask everyone to support, because the situation of the Palestinians in East Jerusalem is very, very bad. Under most of them under in poverty, and they have the education is very bad, the quarters is very bad, everything is very bad. You can't understand, and there's a difference, a gap, a big gap between the Jewish and the Israeli and the Palestinian in everything, in housing, in education, in jobs, in everything.
All right, let's go to Dan Tennant Rouse.
Hello,
Hi, Dan.
everyone. Salam shalom. Thank you, Waleed, for being here. It's really interesting hearing about your work. And Charles actually touched on what I was going to ask. It's interesting because here in Spain, in Barcelona, they have the Casa Palestina, and obviously they're only pro-Palestine. So when I send them information about these Zooms, I try to send it from a positive angle, and I put emphasis, obviously, that this is just to help Palestinian people, but they never even responded. I'll put the link in the chat. My question actually was the same, really, like Waleed. How can I support you from Spain?
You have to support me as the main obstacle here in the Palestinian Authority. From the first side, the Abu Mazen said that he didn't give me the red light and the red light and the green light. I have to support because they are threaten my team. They are threatening the Palestinian intelligence treat my team. It's a very bad situation, and we have to let the people participate in the election.
If the people will give you the vote, you didn't need anybody to give you the vote, my friend. You didn't need Abu Mazen or Hamas to give you any vote.
Inshallah,
if the people of Jerusalem will give you, you didn't need anybody to give you the green or the red light.
But the people in Jerusalem goes to the Abu Mazen. You know.
I disagree with this, because the people of Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa, they did a lot of things against Abu Mazen and Fatah. So I believe if the people believe in your agenda and your plan, I think you'll get the people voice, and nobody, including Abu Mazen and Hamas, can stop that.
Most of the people, especially the old people, they think that if they participate in the election, it's will be considered as recognized of the occupation, recognized of Israel. It's not. It's not, because I told you before that is there are covenant, international covenant that says that Article 25 said that every people under occupation has the right to participate in election in order to get their civil rights. At the same time, they will keep their self-determination. That means if they will support, if they will participate in the election, they will not recognize occupation. That means they would not recognize Israel. They just want to participate to get their rights. This is the point.
I agree with you, my friend. I agree with you. But if your program and if your agenda convince the Jerusalemian that you are working with them and you are doing the best job for them, I guarantee you, everyone will support you to be the mayor. But if you are trying to already like create obstacles by saying this guy agree, this guy disagree. If your election, if your plan is there to help the Palestinians in Jerusalem, and they believe in it, there is nothing can stop in front of you.
I will give you another example. In 1967, there is a Khartoum conference which called the three no for the no recognition of Israel, no of the Abdel Nasser as. After that, the Sadat came as there was a consensus in the Arab world, no negotiation, no peace with Israel. After that, Sadat came and he thought that there is national consensus, but there is more. There is a national interest. The national
but
interest.
Habibi, this is totally irrelevant of what you are doing. You are running to be the mayor. The mayor gonna have a plan and have an idea.
Let's not have a private conversation here. Let's go to Gail and then Nasir and then Sean. Gail, do you have another question or?
Well, just sort of a talking point. Not really. I would like to hear about the new party. If you could talk
Yeah,
about that, please.
All its citizens.
No. Just I am a member. I'm the founder of Kol Izrahiha.
Yes.
In Israel in the Green Line as a running for the Knesset, not for the municipality. The municipality, it's not called Israel, it's called resident. All the resident.
Okay,
there is difference between citizen, all citizen, and all resident. There big difference. And in Israel, in the Green Line, there is a party for running for the Knesset. But here in Jerusalem, it's
municipal.
It's not the party. There is no connection. Just the names. Call citizen, all the citizen, and all the resident. It's separate. It's.
I understand, but because it was mentioned in the promotion for this talk, I'd still like to hear a little bit about it. The other issue is about your website. If you could put something in English on that website, you'll.
I have.
In the diaspora. Also, do you know Nurit Peled Al-Hanan?
Who's?
Nurit Peled Al-Hanan. She's Miko Peled's sister. You know Miko Peled?
Miko Peled, yes, I know.
So Miko Peled's sister, Nurit Peled Al-Hanan, she's an educator, and she wrote about the disparities in the education system and how the Israeli education system teaches Jewish Israelis to fear Palestinians. And there are many other publications looking at, I'm an educator, so I've studied this whole thing, looking at how the education system is communicating fear between the communities, but mostly between Israelis towards Palestinians. So there's another book called Side by Side, where they're looking at looking at how to change the curriculum so that both Palestinians and Jewish Israelis can understand parallel histories. And I just wanted to suggest that if you become mayor of Jerusalem, inshallah, that you can start changing the education system locally so that Jewish kids and Palestinian kids are in the same classroom, much like in Neve Shalom Wahat Salam, or Hand in Hand in Jerusalem, Yad Vayad in Jerusalem, those kinds of models that bring the children together so that they grow up with each other.
Okay, I suggest, or I emphasize that we have to have our narratives, and the Israelis, they can have their narrative. We have different narratives. We have our tradition narrative, the Palestinian narrative, the Palestinian food, and there is different. We do, as every side have his right to have his narrative and his tradition. Yeah.
Yes.
I will be pleased if you I'll get your phone for Nurit Al-Hanan.
Yes, how can I email you? I can also email you some of my research too.
through Mr. Avisar. Joseph.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
If you
so
send me an email, I'll send you
I don't think I have your direct email, Yosef. I just have
it's josephavisar@gmail.com.
Okay. I'll do that.
Okay, Nasir, Sean, Erica. Let's go
Thanks.
to Nasir.
Yeah, so Mr. Waleed, I wanted to continue. In regards to what Saeed said, Brother Saeed, you know, I can attest that there is a stigma in East Jerusalem whenever you participate. Like when you said the things that happened in Al-Aqsa were against the Palestinian Authority, but they weren't cooperating with any Israeli or Jewish organization. So there is a stigma in East Jerusalem with anyone who cooperates politically with any. I work with Israeli organizations, and trust me, in my community, Beit Hanina, in East Jerusalem, there is a stigma, and I'm going to tell you that it's even deadly. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Waleed hasn't even received death threats or his people haven't received death threats because of his campaign. So this stigma does exist, and it's very much alive, even though the Palestinians in East Jerusalem do not live under the Palestinian Authority. That's my first point. The other thing is, I'm based in the States, Mr. Waleed. My community, Beit Hanina, we have about over 30,000 people that live here, most of whom lost their residency right. We've hosted people like Ahmed Al-Taybi, Hanina Zorbi, that have come here to advocate for their rights, for the rights of Palestinian citizens as well as Palestinians. And I would welcome you anytime if you come to California or even anywhere in the States to come and to speak to Palestinians here.
My daughter is in Los Gatos. You know, I have been.
Yeah, very close. Okay, I'm very close to them. Who's in Los Gatos?
My daughter.
Okay, excellent.
She's in Abel. She's director in Abel.
Okay, awesome. So if you come to visit, your daughter, I'm only maybe an hour away, so we can.
I have been there the last month.
Oh, I wish I would have known. We could have introduced you to the community here because the reason.
I have the American passport, and I live in Orlando. My son is in Georgetown, and second daughter in Los Angeles.
Okay,
so
awesome.
Nasser, where do you live, Nasser? In California?
I live in California. I'm in Northern. Next time you come, because we did events with Ahmed Al-Taybi. He spoke to communities, and Yani, please, when you come, we'll exchange contact. But anyways, I wanted to mention this because
Darmian.
Abushi.
The family.
Abushi.
Family.
Abushi.
Ah, I know.
Yeah,
I heard about you.
Okay, yeah. We have a
Abush. The first name, please.
Nasir.
Nasir Abushi.
Yeah. So
I can review next month, next week.
Okay.
No problem for me.
Yeah. So what we can do is the reason is that I wanna like. Are you speaking to people from our community that are local? I mean, I know Beit Hanina doesn't have a lot of Hanina local people, but people Shafat, people in these areas. How are you being received by these communities? Is it? Do you feel that you're getting cooperation? Because I would definitely like to reach out to some of our community leaders on the ground to get them to maybe invite you and speak to the people there, because these are voters. These are people who can vote for you.
Yeah, I will come. If you invite me, I will come for just one day to do it. Just.
No, أنا بحكي عن في الداخل يعني في بيت حنينة.
بعرف دار الهرباوي، بعرف دار.
Okay, hello.
I know a lot of people.
Okay,
yes.
so but what I'm saying is now in Beit Hanina, not in the US. Are you speaking? Are you going to events to speak to people there? Are you
Every
speaking?
day, every day, every day,
Okay,
every
so
day.
you know Khalid Atadallah, for example?
خالد ايش؟
Khalid
عطله؟
Atadallah.
عطله he's مقاول هذا building in building.
Yes.
خالد عطله.
Yeah.
I know him.
Okay. So
I
these
know
are
he
people.
is from. I know him.
Okay, so these are people who are community leaders who you can reach out to, and they're residents, so they can vote. So that's why I want to steer you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
I will.
go to Sean. Hi, Sean.
Hi, Mr. Waleed. Just one question. You know, you mentioned earlier that the Israeli has the power. They have the power to give Palestinian the right to be resident or not resident. They have they chose these things. Like the Palestinians don't have that kind of power, right? So my thing is that don't the Israeli, like, you want to become the mayor and you're hoping you get vote from people that put you in your position as a mayor. But at the same time, do you have to follow what Israelis' agenda wants? Like, because in order for them to make you a mayor, that you have to do what the Israeli want and follow the Israelis' agenda. And you know, if you do not follow their agenda, they might boycott you and disqualify you from what you're running for if you don't follow. I understand you get votes from Palestinians, but at the same time, if you get heavy pressure from Israel, and what Israel wants, then maybe you have a little problem in keeping your position. So are you aware that sometimes these really will like, they'll put you in your position as long as you do what they want, or what they yes.
In Israel, there is laws. The municipality laws. It was established before Israel. It was from the Mandat, the Mandat area. Mandat, yes. And we are going to, according to, I am my lawyer. I have to go according to the law. But in the municipality, you have a not law, what called
Regulation.
Regulation. Yeah, you have regulation. In the regulation, who did the regulation is the council member, not the Smotrich, not Ben Gvir. If we participate in the municipality, we can stop the demolition of the houses. We can make more education. We can stop the sophisticated of land. Because this is we have to participate. The Israeli is it's dealing of power. If you have power in the council, you can decide. You can decide without, if you out of the table. If you get to the table, you can ask your rights. This is the point. The Israeli law, it's for the Israeli municipality, but there is a special regulation in the inside. We can push the regulation circulation. Just we have to change from in the municipality, not in the political high politics.
All right, Erica.
Okay.
Yeah, I just checked to see to build on what Mr. Haziz was saying. I think the point was trying to make for the mayoral candidate is that I think most people know that there's going to be opposition from both sides for anybody trying to do even a confederation type of a thing. And that I think he's trying to express to you to not harp on that, to discuss your policy and not remind people that you're going to be opposed by not just the Israeli side, but the Palestinian side. So I'm hoping you guys will, it sounds like you're already together and you'll heed some of what he's saying. Thank you.
Thank you for clearing that. Appreciate it.
All right, let me ask Waleed Abu Tayeh some questions. Mr. Abu Tayeh, are you fluent both in Arabic and Hebrew?
Yes, in Hebrew, yes, and in Arabic. But in the secondary school, we study in Nazareth. We don't study Islamic religion. We study Hebrew religion in the high school. So my Arabic, it's not so good. It's good enough, but not as a point man.
So you speak Hebrew better than Arabic?
I speak Hebrew and Arabic and
And I understand you went to a law school in Jerusalem at the Hebrew
Yeah.
University, correct?
Yeah, and in Tel Aviv and Columbia University in Manhattan.
Oh, I see. Okay. And are you campaigning with both the Jewish sector and the Palestinian sector?
Of course, but my population is Jerusalem, the Palestinian. But from the left wing, I have some connection with them, and I will get a lot of votes from the left connection, from the left side.
You mean the left wing of the Israeli side?
Yeah, in Jerusalem, yes. There is not, yeah.
Okay. Now, what happened if you lose? Will you still have some say in the municipality of Jerusalem, in City Hall, or are you completely out of it?
No, I will be out of it. There is also possibility to lose. I'm not sure to succeed, but I hope. I work very hard every day. I work very hard because I from 20 hours a day. I work very hard. Yeah, and I'm still now exhausted.
Did you approach a person like Benjamin Netanyahu or to support your candidacy, or it's
No.
question?
I don't need him.
That would be a poison pill for you if he supports.
No, I don't need him. He's against all the problems from
Joseph, the whole
Netanyahu.
country is against Bibi Netanyahu.
Yeah,
It's
it's
stay
crazy.
away from him.
Yeah, but there is a substantial religious community in Jerusalem. Have you tried to get a Jewish religious community? Have you tried to get their support?
Maybe I'll think about, but Netanyahu he's very dangerous. His aim is to survive, not to go to the prison. Very dangerous people.
Absolutely correct. I'm sorry to interject, but his only interest is his own power.
Yeah,
He doesn't care about anybody else.
Yeah, and also his friend Ben Gvir is fascist. Fascist Ben Gvir with Smotrich, because it's very fascist. It's look like Hitler before a long time.
Do you have like rallies, or how is the campaign going? Do you have rallies, or you?
I speak with the people. I have conference, and I have connection with the people, and next week I'll start with Facebook, TikTok, connection with the people. Yes, I
Okay,
try
so
with
mostly on social media. What about in person? Do you walk the streets? You go shake people's hands and things like that, and you introduce yourself? Or is that not common over there?
It's not common. Connection. I would the head of the families. There is in Jerusalem families, big families, and I'll speak with the head of the families and the head of the quarter. This is the main thing. The sheikh, the mukhtar, something like that.
Okay. All right, Nasir, you have questions, and then we'll go to closing remarks.
Yeah, you actually brought up a really good remark. But before I said that, it's not, Joseph, it's not like you have to go kiss babies in the streets, in the old US way. Remember the politician used to go kiss babies, but it doesn't work like that in Jerusalem.
They don't have babies there?
They have a lot of babies, but people just don't kiss them. Anyways, I wanted to ask, because you mentioned a good point about reaching out to to Jewish constituents because Jews are going to vote, rather than reaching out to leftists. I've always wondered that. Look at, for example, religious Jewish communities where 30% of Jewish, I think it's 30 or 40% of Jewish residents in Jerusalem are Haredi. These are people who are much more religious culturally. They're culturally conservative, socially conservative. They're very concerned about funding for schools, funding for their family, healthcare and stuff. And in many ways, they share a lot of the same values as Arabs.
Exactly.
Why is there not like and some of them are not necessarily even Zionists. They're actually not.
A lot of them are anti-Zionist.
They're anti-Zionist and they're extremely against secularism. Why hasn't there been like an outreach to these people to say, hey, we believe in your cultural values, we believe in your cultural ways, and want funding for your schools and your community projects, and make a cooperation with those people rather than leftists who really don't represent majority of Israelis.
I know some of them, the Torah Carta. I know some of them.
Well, that's the fringe. That's a fringe. But I'm talking about average, Moshe, Shlomo, that just wants to study and raise a bunch of kids. These kind of people, not the fringe groups. Because the problem with Palestinians is we always cling to these fringe groups that really don't represent Israel.
Nasir, I have to tell you something. If 60% of the Arab vote to me, I'll be the mayor. Just 60% of the Arab. We have 40%. We have a very big power. It's not in the Greenland. The Greenland, they are not united. They have just 10%. They have not a power of just 10%. But here in Jerusalem, we have big power. It's big power. 40%. It's big power. It's half of the council.
Can I just ask you, when's the elections? When is the election?
31 of October.
October. Okay, so it's soon. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, two months from now.
Wow.
Nasir, I'm sorry, Waleed. One more question. There is a breakdown in Israeli society now, an identity crisis, I would say. And so my question to you, is there a identity or similar breakdown in the Palestinian society? And how does these breakdown in the Israeli or the Palestinian or both, how does that affect your candidacy?
Okay, we have different culture, we have different parties, but we have to be equal in everything. We have different people. It's secular, it's religion. We should have a lot of kinds of people, but in the rights we should be equal. But we have different attitude. Okay, Jewish, Arab, secular religion, but in the rights of the municipality and the rights of the government, we have to have equal in everything. Equal in individual, also and equal in collective. We are a national collective. We are a Palestinian collective. So there is difference, and at the same time, difference of the person, but we have to be equal.
I know, but is there a breakdown in Palestinian society similar to that of the Israeli society, or
what you mean breakdown?
Well, between the religious and the secular, between the
يعني اختلافات بين الشعب الفلسطيني، يعني جوا الشعب الفلسطيني بين بعضهم اختلاف.
Yes, there is a secular, there is a religion people. Yes, of course, in every society there is a difference. Yes,
I would say it's more fragmented than.
But we are one national, one national, one language, one tradition. The same thing. For example, take to Switzerland or Belgium. 4 languages, 4 religion, 4 nationality, but we have here one nationality, the Arab nationality and the Jewish nationality, and just 2 languages in Belgium, in Switzerland, and Schweiz, I think. Switzerland. 4 nationality and 4 languages and 4, I think, religion.
Okay, let's go to Shinaria, and then we'll go to closing remarks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hi, Brother Waleed. Thank you for coming to this meeting. I was wondering, how do you plan to build trust with Palestinian people who are scared to participate in political activities? Specifically, people who are hesitant to participate because they've been lied to so many times. They have no reason to trust politicians, particularly politicians who claim to support both Palestinian and Israeli interests. I think that idea will be hard to imagine or even novel to some people who've been lied to and deceived and been annexed and jailed for generations. So I'm wondering what you think about that specifically and how you will take that into account as part of your campaign.
First of all, I'm not a politician. I am a lawyer, and I am looking for my work is duties and rights. This is they pay all their duties. They have to get the rights. This is my aim. I'm not politician. I'm as a lawyer. I'm represent them in the municipality. This is my aim. I'm not looking for to be politician or just duty as just as a lawyer, not more. Yeah.
Okay, we are going to go to, let's do the post-simulation survey regarding the IPC. Hold on a second, please. Okay, so if you can vote, do you support this common government? At this time? Okay, end the polling and publish the results. We have a lot less people, but 100% voted yes. I'm not sure that that's reflective because we have a lot less people are voting. But I'm just interested, Mr. Abu Tayeh, how did you vote? Do you support the idea of a common government? Something went wrong.
No, he's there. I think he's just, did he freeze? Mr. Waleed?
Okay.
Yeah, he froze.
Okay, so a common government can bring peace. Online elections are feasible. We can hold them securely. Estonia, the country with 9.5 million people, vote online. It would take about $100 million to do this, which is not a lot of money. It's one day of war between Gaza and Israel could make peace probably forever. So I hope you share this hopeful message. And let me show you what $100 million, what people do with $100 million. They buy a Van Gogh picture, they buy a Airbus or a beautiful house in Bel Air, California. So with that kind of money, we can make peace in Israel and Palestine. And that's not a lot of money, and I think we can eventually get to it. So I want to thank all of you for participating.
Thank you. Thank you, Joseph. Great job today.
What?
Great job today. Good job today. Very nice.
Thank you so much. And is Waleed
It looks like he got disconnected again.
I see. Okay. So
Can you send out a recording of today? I want to share it with a Palestinian friend of mine.
It's available on the website as well. You can, I'll put the website in the chat box here for you.
Okay.
And it's usually available after like a day or two.
Yeah. We just need to
and you can see all past recordings.
And then
Yeah.
All right.
I'll put it in the chat for you, Gail.
Yes.